You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. And Ulises, on today's show, we have a crossover edition, special guest from the Locked On A's podcast. That is Booney. Booney, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. Very nice to be here.
Yeah. There is multiple reasons that we want to speak to you today. Obviously, the recent Jeffrey Springs trade, but we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that Oakland A's MLB, just general great, Rickey Henderson passed away the other day. And of course, we know about the history and the prestige that he brought to the game of baseball and all the records he holds and his personality, everything like that. But when you found out that he passed away at 65 years old, what were your initial reactions and impressions to that?
Way too young. He was 5 days away from his 66th birthday. He seemed okay. He lost the battle to pneumonia, and 65 years old. I mean, you talk about just one of the legends going out suddenly, tragically the way he did. I think all baseball fans lost something today. He's a guy that transcended the game, that's for sure. And I think he transcended sports in a certain way as well.
Which is so difficult. I mean, to do, especially in an age where there wasn't even social media, right? So
right.
The fact that he just got so big, it's pretty impressive. And for the people that did not get to see him play, I got to see him very, very little when he was very, very old. So I didn't get to see peak Rickey. But if you just go to YouTube, watch some clips, and if you don't want to do that, if you just go to Baseball Reference, take a gander at that page, and it's absolute lunacy. It is crazy stuff. So something, Booney, do you have a Rickey Henderson story, like something that you most remember about him?
I think it was obviously I got into baseball because of Rickey Henderson. That's who I first started watching on TV when he was with the A's, wearing number 35. Luckily for me, I wouldn't even know it. The first year I started watching baseball was when he was chasing the 130 stolen base record. He was unbelievable, and he had an arrogance about him. He had a cockiness. He had a flash to him where we never saw before, right? It was the first time. So it was strange to everybody. As he continued with his career, we started seeing a perfect combination of power and speed, right? Because always the leadoff hitter in baseball, was your slap hitter trying to get on base, make something happen. And he brought it all, and he brought it with a flair. He was unapologetically himself, and he did not care. He started the snatch catch. There was so many things about Rickey that was just unbelievable in the way he played. Dominant. I still, when I watch the replays of A's games and he walked or got on first base, there was no feeling like it. The jitters that went through your body, the butterflies you had, the uncontrolled excitement you had just because you didn't know what was going to happen. As far as him taking second, taking third, scoring a run, he was beyond electric. I recommend that if people never had a chance to go see him play, YouTube some of the videos. He was phenomenal. You could even hear it in the announcer's voice, the way they spoke about him when they got to first place, like no other player in the history of baseball.
Yeah, and that's I saw on the timeline, like little Rickey stories that everybody started to share. And one of them was there was a hit by pitch. He gets on base, obviously steals second, obviously steals third. And there is a pitch on the ground. The catcher can't block it, goes to the backstop. He scores. the ball wasn't never put in play.
Yeah.
And the man scores. I mean, it's just it's really, really cool stuff. And if you look again at the baseball reference page, this guy had a 401 on base percentage, and the last time that he had that was 4 years before he retired. That was the last time he eclipsed 400 on base. So like, you got to imagine how good he was for how long, and that's 25 years. It's really impressive.
Imagine this: at 39 years old, he stole 69 bases.
It's crazy.
When he stole the record of 130 in 1 year over a 5-day stretch, he stole 13 bases.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
He's something else.
That 1990 season, oh my gosh, and the 1985 season, where he's basically a 10-WAR player out of both of those.
Yeah.
And he had, if I'm looking at this correctly, was it 4 different stints with the Athletics, Booney?
4 different stints. 4 different stints with the A's, yes.
Wow, that's wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Kept
kudos
playing
to Rickey
Something
Henderson.
else. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah, of course. We have more to discuss on the program, but first, Ulises, we have to tell the audience something very important, and that is FanDuel. Got to tell you about FanDuel. We love FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it is not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. They are America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel, they've got so many ways for you to pick up a W. Scoring a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. That's just a few of the items that you can bet on. If you don't believe me, go check it out for yourself. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, Booney, let's get into some recent news that transpired between the Rays and the Athletics. You all got Jeffrey Springs and the millions of dollars that he will be earning with you all seemingly this season and next season. You also got Jacob Lopez, a left-handed pitcher. And in return, we got Joe Boyle, Will Simpson, Jacob Waters, and a 2025 Comp A draft pick. What do you make of this deal and how your team ultimately came out from this?
I felt good about the trade. I felt like we had to make the trade. As far as the money goes, we have to get our payroll up, right? We have to get it to 105 million. So we almost wanted the salary itself was inconsequential. You know, we had to have that money. Springs obviously is coming off Tommy John surgery. You know, when I was putting together every possible scenario as far as pitchers the A's can get, I totally forgot about Springs. I remember him from 2022, was it? Oh, excuse me, from 23. Yes. And he was dominant. I mean, he was arguably one of the best left-handers in all of baseball. With that being said, I felt like the Rays made the perfect trade for them. I felt they maximized exactly what they could out of the trade. I feel Boyle is a big deal. I see him as being a big-time closer. I think the A's made a mistake as far as he started as in the starting rotation for the A's in 2024. He was the number 5 starter. And that was because he ended 2023 so good. But I just don't feel him being a starter is going to be something where he's going to last at. He's one of those guys where you look at his final numbers and you look at his ERA and you're like, okay. But you see like 3-6 outs he gets and you're like, wow, I've never seen stuff like that. He's that electric. The draft pick's a huge deal. And, you know, it comes across when they make a trade like that, like, hey, they're just kind of throwing in that, like almost like a player to be named later. That draft pick is huge. It's going to be, you know, either a late first round or an early second round, depending on how, you know, you look at it and what your perspective is of it. The hitters, what was it? Simpson had a good year last year. He was good, but hitters like they're a dime a dozen. You know what I mean? So I was okay with that. We're stacked with regard to hitting and with regard to our minor league farm system right now. I wasn't too concerned about that. Boyle is huge. The draft pick is huge. But I'm concerned, and I actually watched your episode because I wanted to get your reaction as well. And what concerned me a little bit was Springs' velocity going down a little bit last year, which is a huge deal for the type of pitcher he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Him losing 1 or 2 miles per hour and with how he gets guys out is a big deal. But at the same time, it seems like they've gotten this Tommy John thing down to a science, but it always gets you worried because this trade only works out if Springs was what he was. And if he is, I feel like it's a great trade. So what's your thoughts on Springs and the other pitcher we got as well? Waters, I'm sorry.
Well, with Springs, I think, like we said on that episode, he's a terrific pitcher when he is not injured. Now he's coming back from TJ. There was good showing, those 7 starts I think he did at the end of the season. But again, he got told, let's stop. You're done for the rest of the season. So how is he going to pick it up? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be the same guy? I think if he's even close to what he was, then I think this is a fantastic piece for the A's. Jacob Lopez, another lefty, only pitched about 20 innings with the Rays. Got hit around, but also had some good outings. But it's too little sample size to really say something about a guy that's only pitched 20 innings in major leagues to say if he's got it or not. But he could be that quad A guy. He could be if you need a couple innings here and there, maybe Jacob Lopez could do something. But I want to go back to something that you said about Boyle with the closing, because we do have Pete Fairbanks, but that's a name that has been shopped around. Like, hey, Pete Fairbanks could be traded. He is making a lot of money in Ray's eyes, $3.5 million. So that's always an opportunity to be traded. Do you think Boyle was being handed the closer role, the setup role at all? In the A's, or was he definitely going to be making the rotation without even competition this year?
You got to remember our setup guy from last year is the Royals closer right now, and Lucas Ursay, right? So we had them. Our bullpen was pretty darn good last year. Again, Boyle's reason for getting in that rotation to start the season was how he closed out 2023. I mean, he had a 1.69 ERA. I mean, it was only in about 18 innings or so. 3 starts, whatever it may be, something like that. But he was dominant. And when he has it going on, he's extremely, extremely good. Even when he got sent down, though, last year, he struggled. His ERA was, I think, 5.6, something like that. With the A's, it was in the mid-5s. He got hit, and a lot of it had to do with walks and then giving up that one big hit. He'd come out clean 2-3 innings, then that one inning, he's given up 5. So that was the struggle with Boyle. I like him as a closer. That's where I felt the A's misused him a little bit. But again, they were stacked in that bullpen role. They needed starting pitching. So from their perspective, I don't see anything wrong with it. The Rays have sure had a history of knowing how to use pitchers and getting the best out of them. So I think if there's any franchise out there that's going to figure it out, it's going to be them. But I think Boyle is electric. I think he'll come out of the bullpen this year for the Rays and start off as maybe a 6th inning guy, 7th inning guy, whatever it may be, and then go from there. Because I believe you guys are pretty stacked as far as your rotation.
Yes, we should be pretty well set rotation-wise and bullpen-wise as it stands right now, assuming health. That is the big question mark year in and year out for pretty much every team, but particularly the Rays with their slew of injuries that they've had. What's interesting about this deal, and Ulises and I had mentioned it when it broke, was the Rays have a need or multiple needs for offense in 2025. One of the worst offenses in all of baseball and in their franchise history. And when I hear that Jeffrey Springs and maybe some other guys are being shopped around, and then you hear that they're working on a deal with the Athletics, my light bulb is going off, and I'm saying, well, maybe we're getting Lawrence Butler, maybe JJ Bleday. Is that something that the A's would have been willing to part with, or are they pretty much no trade guys, or it would have had to be like a monster offer for the Athletics to part with one or more big offensive players.
I think they would have, but it would have been had to be the type of deal where it would have been in like a JJ Bleday for Springs straight up.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing else, right? No Boyle, no draft pick, none of the other guys. So we're loaded in the outfield. Bleday's, he was the 4th overall pick out of Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty damn good. He still has not lived up to that billing. He seems to be coming along. Had a better year last year, but you still look at his numbers. He played 158 games, solid center fielder, nothing great. Yeah, it would have to be something like that for a guy like Springs, who's already proven, and something we need on the pitching side of things. Lawrence Butler was just amazing. He was the best hitter in baseball in all of July. I think he had the highest OPS in the month of July in all of baseball. But, that was coming off when he got brought back up. Before that, he was hitting like 160. I don't know what got into him.
Yeah. Some guys go through ebbs and flows. Honestly, if you're a Rays fan, you probably would have done that deal of a Day or a Butler or whomever straight up, because that is how dire the offensive situation seems to be going into.
Yeah. The A's have made it clear they don't want to give up any young guys, but at the same time, they just gave up Boyle. So Bleday might have been in play, but they're high on Bleday, obviously.
Expectations from Springs with the A's. Obviously, with Severino signing that contract, it seems just kind of a normalcy that he's going to be the opening day starter.
Yeah.
But how do you see Springs fitting into this rotation? Could he be the opening day starter? And that could be a plot twist that could happen after spring training, or where do you see him?
I think it's Severino the whole way. I will say this, though. If Springs stays healthy, and I remember him well from before he got hurt, he was good, really, really good. And if he comes back, and they say a lot of pitchers come back from this Tommy John better than they were before, get the body a little bit more healthy, they get the rest. We'll see. You never know. But if he is even close to that 2023, he's one of the best left-handers in All-American League. I mean, there's no question about it. He was that in before he got injured for the Rays. So I'm high on Springs. If he stays healthy, even when he came back last year, the few starts he did have, even with the reduced velocity, he was good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about him. I'm really, really excited about him. It's going to be Severino just because he's an inning eater. And I don't know what we're going to get with regard to Springs with regard to innings. Is it going to be one of those deals where it's like, hey, if a great outing for him is 5 with 70 pitches and shut him down, you know what I mean, until he kind of build himself up. So we'll see. But I'm excited for Springs, that's for sure. It was a trade the A's had to make, and I felt like the Rays maximized it. And it was interesting when David Forrest came out and talked about it. He said that he was talking to the Rays about this since October. So
well, look at that. October.
Yeah.
Well, Booney's excited about Springs in the rotation, and I got to tell you guys, I'm pretty excited about Game Time, because Game Time has it all. I'm telling you, you want theater tickets, you want comedy, you want baseball, you want soccer, you want football, you want basketball. Game Time has it all for you, and they've got this very, very nice situation where you can have all-in pricing. You toggle that feature and it shows the total up front, not like stadium deals. Okay, it's all the money right in front of you, and you can say, yep, I want that ticket. And today you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Booney, Kevin, what time is it?
Game time.
That's right.
There we go. Booney, you mentioned that this was a deal that the A's had to make, in order to be competitive, obviously, for 2025. But also, I assume the payroll requirements as well, and reaching a minimum. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the A's have to do so they don't draw the continued ire of the Players Association? I'm afraid that the Rays could end up in this boat at some point. We are very similar organizations in that respect.
Well, the A's, the reason why the A's got themselves in this mess is because they weren't spending the revenue sharing where it should have gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our ownership likes putting a lot of money in their own pocket and does not like reinvesting it into the A's. And a lot of people think that was part of the ploy to get out of Oakland in the beginning, which it may have. In order to fully participate in the revenue sharing, the A's have to get to a payroll of $105 million. Okay. With the Sambrano signing, with the spring signing, they're still approximately 16 million shy of that. So, what needs are the A's going to go after? Another starting pitcher, maybe a middle infielder, whoever has a good contract. So the deal worked out for both. If Springs cost $15 million a year, we would have still signed it. We need to get that payroll up to 105, and we're still light of that. So it looks like we'll be making another signing here soon. But the big misconception out there is the A's are all of a sudden spending. Well, no, the A's have to spend.
Right. But why was it that 105 number? Do you know where that came from? Was that like some formula, some war formula?
Yeah, it was the percentage they have to spend on the revenue sharing they're getting in order to which they have to spend to get spent back on the team. So it's a percentage of the revenue sharing that needs to go back to the team compared to what they received last year, because they received a small portion, or what they're due to receive this year. But yes, it does have to do with the percentage of what they're getting.
Okay. If you're the Rays front office and ownership, you're probably licking your chops of, the A's have to spend X number of dollars. We've got some millions on the existing payroll that we could give you for a ham sandwich or something like that, or more prospects. The Rays always love more prospects as well. So you never know. You might end up with a Zach Littell or a Brandon Lau or a Yandy Diaz or a So it might not be over by the time the new year and spring training hits. So
the Rays seem like they got themselves in a little bad luck, with obviously, was it the Franco deal that happened in Dominican? Yeah, that was a shame. He was a hell of a ball player, but they always seem to be there. I think the Rays and the A's are similar in a lot of ways as far as what they've done. What's the expectations for the Rays next year? Playing in a minor league ballpark like the not a minor league, but the Yankees spring training facility, which may be better than major league ballparks. But
no, it is a minor league ballpark. The Rays for the Yankees single A team, low class there. Yep,
gotcha.
I think Kevin and I agree that the rotation is stacked. We feel really good about the bullpen. The defense should not be a problem, but you can't win a game 0-0.
Yeah.
You got to score a run. So where's that offense coming from? Is it coming from a guy that is declining in talent, or at least in production, like Yandy Diaz as he gets older? Is it Brandon Lau, who hasn't really hit more than 110 games more than one time in his career? Is it Josh Lowe, who's had a terrific rookie season and then another one that's injury plagued? Is it Junior Caminero, who could be the face of the franchise, but you still really don't know much about him? And then you look at that lineup, and those are the big guys. Those are the ones that you count on, and they all have question marks. So is it going to be kind of the 2024 repeat of a very slow offense? Hopefully not. They signed Eloy Jimenez today to a minor league deal. That could help, would help. But really, if I can have my cake and eat it too, I would love to see another lefty power hitter. Because if you're doing that short porch, take advantage of that. Brendan Lau, Josh Lowe, we need one more lefty that can really take advantage of that Yankee advantage.
Now, is the expectations to go 500 or give it a chase to a wild card? $1 million question. Right?
I think that if you're a Rays fan, you look at the roster top and bottom, and I don't know how you can suggest this is a a wild card team. I'm thinking mid 80s wins, but of course the Rays always want to compete and do the best they can and have their name in the hunt. We didn't mention or give much thought to it, but the Rays did add Danny Jansen at catcher. So catcher offensively was atrocious last season, and hopefully if you have a healthy Danny Jansen, that can add a modicum of offense as well. But on paper, I find it hard to believe this is a playoff team. But they're not done yet. I mean, there's still offseason left. The payroll's really low. So now if they go out and sign somebody of note, I think that could change the fortunes a little bit and move the Rays up the meter.
And how does it work with the A's now with all this signing, the payroll kind of increasing? Are the expectations like, well, look, we're going to be better than the Angels for sure. Seattle hasn't really done much. Can we really battle it out against both Texas teams, Houston and the Rangers?
Here's what's interesting. There's so much attention with regard to the A's on what's going on off the field that everybody forgot what's going on the field.
Mm-hmm.
The A's had the second best record in all baseball in July. They have an absolute dominant lineup towards the second half of the year. The only consistent time of the year they had a roster that was familiar with each other from day to day was the month of July. I went down player for player, compared it to the rest of the American League West. At the same time, American League West is a little bit down. Astros aren't the Astros. They're probably going to lose Bregman. Of course, they signed Walker, which I thought was a hell of a signing.
Mm-hmm.
But in about a month ago, before even the Sambrano signing, I guarantee that the A's would win the AL West. I still think that. I think if Springs and Severino's are the workhorse. I don't care what anybody says about him. He was an absolute dog for the Mets in the playoffs as well. And if Springs is Springs, and we pick up another pitcher, let's say our bullpen's good.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do I think we'll win the AL West, I mean, I think we have a chance to win a playoff series. I think, believe it or not, I think people are going to be very surprised with the A's. Their lineup and what they can do offensively is off the charts. Pitching was the question. We'll see if Springs and Severino are our saviors or not.
Yeah. Final question that I have, Ulises or Booney, if you have another one, let me know. Obviously, the Rays are dealing with their own stadium crisis right now. And Booney, you mentioned it. So much focus has been on the off the field and the sideshow with the Athletics and not what they're actually doing to build a ball club. But what is the latest with the Athletics relocation? My understanding, I've been a little bit out of the loop with what they have going on because we have our own situation going on, but they will be playing in Sacramento for the next couple of years. Is that right? And then
next 3 years, an option for a fourth.
Okay. And then as far as getting a stadium built in Las Vegas, is that good to go, or there's still been some hiccups and discussions surrounding that?
Depending on who you talk to, right?
Yeah.
It was interesting. I thought the A's Vegas was not going to work. And I thought they would end up in Sacramento for sure. Then the next day after I said that, of course, Fisher secures financing, right? There's a lot. The skeptics out here are saying, well, why doesn't Fisher, if he's serious about putting a stadium in Vegas, why doesn't he put money in an escrow account? Why doesn't he show you exactly what he has? And my take on that is, well, let me come up to one of you guys and why don't you open up your bank statements for me and show me your wallet? You guys are probably going to sock me in the jaw. So he has no right. He doesn't have to do any of that. The Major League Baseball is not a publicly traded company. He owns an entity of Major League Baseball and is going through the process. I do think it's going to happen. Nevada gets things done. California and Nevada, as far as getting things done, is like night and day. There's nothing out there that says it will not get done. I think it is full steam ahead unless something catastrophic happens, like we saw in 2000 with COVID or something to that level of where you can't control. Vegas will happen. I see it happening, and they'll be there in opening day 2028. But we'll see.
And for people to just get all of this information that might be race fans, but hey, they want to know more about the A's. Booney, can you tell them when they can expect episodes from you, where they can find you, and all of that, your social media and everything else?
I appreciate it, fellas. Yeah, right now, 3 days a week. Once we get past the holidays, it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Episodes post at 6 a.m. on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And the best way to interact is at Locked On A's on Twitter or X or whatever you call it, not Blue World or Blue Sky or Blue Gem.
Yeah. Very good. All right, Booney, we appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful week and holiday season, and we'll have to have you on again soon. Maybe the Rays and A's work out another trade or situation between now and the new year.
Maybe we'll talk again ALCS. You never know.
Oh, I like that.
Let's go back to 2019. We can reminisce about Yandy Diaz's 2 home runs opposite field at the Coliseum.
Never know.
All right. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.